Today, we will be talking about adding and subtracting polynomials. Let us review for a second each of the types of polynomials. We've learned that a monomial has one term. We've also learned that a binomial consists of two terms, and that a trinomial consists of three terms. So a polynomial is a sum of monomials. So you should see a collection of terms that are separated by an addition or subtraction sign. In a polynomial, it is always arranged in what we call standard form. And standard form says that a polynomial is written in descending order of the exponents. Now let's talk about the exponents of a polynomial. The highest exponent of a polynomial is known as the degree. So in this example, what is the degree of this polynomial? Let's look at each of the terms. The first term is negative 6x squared. The next term is 2x squared. The next term is negative x. And the last term is 5. Now look at the exponents in each of the terms. What is the highest exponent that you see? It is the 3. So the degree of that polynomial is 3. In the next polynomial, negative 3x to the 4th minus 5x plus 4x squared plus x cubed minus 8, we want to write it in standard form. So to do that, we look for the term with the highest exponent, and that term is negative 3x to the 4th. So we write that term first. Then we look for the term with the next highest exponent, and that is the x cubed term. So that term is written next. Then the term with the next highest exponent is 4x squared. And then we have the negative 5x to the first power, and the constant is always last. So now this polynomial is written in standard form. Now, how do we add and subtract polynomials? Well, first of all, we have to make sure that we have like terms whenever we're adding and subtracting polynomials. Again, this is review from a previous lesson. So if we look at this first set here, each row has like terms. And if we look at this next set at the bottom, each of these are unlike terms in a row. So, of course, just to review really quickly, like terms have the same variable and exponent. And, of course, unlike terms do not have the same variable and exponent part. So remember, when we want to add and subtract polynomials, we must have like terms, which means that like terms have the same variable part with the same exponents. Now, to add polynomials, we're going to show you two methods, the horizontal method and the vertical method. In the horizontal method, what we want to do is circle our like terms. So we have the 3x squared, the negative x squared, and the negative x squared. And we're going to write them out side by side. And we see we have constants. We're going to box those in because they are like terms. And we're going to write them out side by side. And remember, the sign that's in front of that number goes with that number. So now let's combine all of our red terms. 3x squared minus x squared is 1x squared. And remember, you're adding and subtracting coefficients only. And then let's go to the blue terms. Plus 7 minus 12 is minus 5. So therefore, when we add those polynomials, we get x squared minus 5. Now, the vertical method says that you're going to stack your terms, your like terms, vertically. So let's look at our x squared terms. We're just going to stack those up vertically. Now let's look at our constant terms. We're going to stack those vertically. And now we're going to add vertically. So when we add our red terms, we will get x squared. And when we add our blue terms, we will get minus 5. Let's look at another example. In this example, we see parentheses around our polynomials. If it is an addition problem, and if we look here, we see that we have a plus sign, then we can just drop our parentheses. Or we can pretend like they are not there. And from that point, we can circle our like terms. And we're going to write them out side by side for the horizontal method. And let's go back and circle that 4x squared because that is a like term. Now let's look at our constants. And then we see that we have that negative 7x. So now let's go through and combine our like terms. Let's start with the red terms. We have 1x squared plus 3x squared plus 4x squared, which is 8x squared. Let's go to our x term next, which is minus 7x. And the reason why I'm putting the x term next is because we want to make sure our polynomial is in standard form. Now let's go to the constants, and we get plus 3. Now, when we use the vertical method, what we want to do is write out the first set of parentheses, which is x squared plus 4x minus 5. Then, when we get to the second set of parentheses, we want to make sure that we place each of the terms in the second set in the right column from the first set. Let's go back here, put the x squared on the 4, and we're going to move this 4x squared to go under the x squared term because those are like terms. So we're moving that 4x squared. Okay, now we're going to the second set of parentheses. And in the second set, we have a 3x squared, which would go here. We have a minus 7x, which we can put in the middle. And we have a plus 8, which we want to line up with the 5. So now our like terms are aligned vertically, and we can add them. 8x squared minus 7x plus 3. Here we have another example. Pause the video and you try to do this one. Okay, let's see how you did. Horizontal method, we're just going to write out the like terms side by side. And now we're going to combine them. Let's put our x squared on that 6. 2x squared minus 6x plus 2. Now for the vertical method, we're going to write what's in the first set of parentheses. And then in the second set of parentheses, we're going to put the like terms vertically together. And now let's do our addition. All right, next we're going to subtracting polynomials. When we subtract polynomials, we need to recall the meaning of subtraction, which is add the opposite. Well, how do we get the opposite? We get the opposite by multiplying by -1. So let's point out that this is a subtraction problem, and we see our subtraction sign here. Also, we can put a 1 in front of this parentheses, so it's really a -1 in front of those parentheses. And what we want to do is use distributive property in this second set of parentheses. We're going to distribute that -1, which will help us to get the opposite. So in the second set of parentheses, what you will have is -1 times 6x squared, which is -6x squared. And we have -1 times x, which is -1x. And -1 times -1, which is +1. Now, we have the first set of parentheses, which doesn't have a subtract sign in front of it or a negative sign in front of it. So we can stack up our like terms and then combine them. And we're going to finish out this problem on the next slide. So in the horizontal method, of course, we're going to multiply by -1 first, which we did previously, which will give us the -6x squared minus x plus 1. The first set of parentheses will stay the same. And then now we can write our like terms out side by side. -4x squared minus 6x squared. And then we have -7x minus x. And then we have 3 plus 1. So now when we combine our like terms, we will have -10x squared minus 8x plus 4. And let's put that plus sign in front of the 3 so that we know that there's addition there. Okay, for the vertical method, we're going to write the first set of parentheses, and nothing changes. But in the second set, we know that we've multiplied by a -1. So after doing that, we'll get -6x squared minus x plus 1. So now let's add -10x squared minus x plus 4. So that is how we subtract. Now, let me have you try this problem. Write it down on your notebook paper and bring it into class for the next lesson. Now, if you need to, go through the video again. And if you have any questions, please jot them down, and we will answer all of your questions at the next class setting.